Really messy story time. When I was a freshman in high school, I had just transferred from private school to public school, so I had no friends, I knew nobody, and I didn't know anybody's reputation. Nobody decided to warn me about this girl anyways. So it was fall, it was football season, I was still new, and I had about like 3 friends, and we all hung out in this group. And I could actually walk to school. It was about like a 5-10 minute walk from my house. And the football game had pretty much ended, so we decided to leave to beat the crowd. And on my way home, some lady like hits me with her car. When I say hit me with her car, I don't mean she was going at like 50 miles an hour and my body rolled up on her windshield. It was a slight tap and I fell over. So she gets out of the car, first asks if I'm okay, and then proceeds to scream at me and threaten to call the cops because my body hit her car. And I'm standing there with my friends, and we just decide to start running away from her. And at this point, I'm like 2 minutes away from my house. I'm posting part 2 right now. Part 2 of my messy story time. So the lady hits me with her car, and then gets out and says, "Are you okay?" And then proceeds to scream at me and threaten to call the cops. This was before Karens were invented, but she was probably like the birth giver of Karens. So I didn't know what to do. Nobody knew what to do. She kind of got back in her car, and so I started running away because I thought she was gonna call the cops for hitting me with her car. And then we get to my house, and for some odd reason, can't tell you to this day why, I gave the girl that was in the group the garage code to my house. It was 2 girls, 2 guys, me and the girl, and then 2 other guys. She was dating one of the guys. My dad was infuriated with me for giving out our passcode to some random stranger, and I get that now, but I was like 14, because I come to find out that she is a literal psychopath. My dad's a psychologist, and he can pretty much off the bat see if something's wrong with you. Like, you can spend 2 minutes with him and he'll tell you that you have ADHD. Part 3 is on its way. Part 3 of my really messy story from freshman year. So my dad's mad at me because I gave out our garage passcode, which I understand now, especially because, again, I come to find out that she's literally a psychopath. If you've been following me for a while, you might know I did kind of a partial story on her. She literally hit on my dad in front of me, and there's a 44-year age difference between them. Anyways, moving on. So yes, my dad's a psychologist. He can easily tell that somebody's crazy, but that is not how I knew. Like, she would run away from her house solely for the purpose of posting it on social media and getting attention from it. She would run to my house. We actually had to change our garage code just in case. I'm not done with the story, but I will also say that she dropped out of school for like a few months and told everybody it was to go away and have her boyfriend's baby, when that was proven not to be the case. Was never pregnant. Eventually, he broke up with her and she lied about being in the hospital from a car crash to get his attention. Part 4, the last part, is on its way. Part 4 of my really messy story from freshman year. So she was crazy. Normal people don't do the things that she did and still does. Like, he broke up with her and told everybody in the school that she was in the hospital and almost died in a car crash, then proceeded to tell him that and say, "This is why you need to be with me, like, I'm crazy." Anyway, she's crazy. So back to the story. We arrive at my house and we come inside, and we all 4 come up to my room, which I am in right now, and they proceed to have sex in my bed while I'm in the room, while the other dude is literally sitting in the room with me too. Like, they were up in my bed and we were sitting on the floor while this was all happening, like in front of my eyes. And no one ever said anything. So I got hit by a car, and then 2 basically strangers had sex in my bed while I was in the room. I got a new mattress. Don't go to public school. Here's a crazy story about almost being taken by sex traffickers. This story was sent to me by the victim herself through my Instagram DMs, and her name is Elizabeth. So Elizabeth's parents are divorced, and she went to Amsterdam to visit her dad and look at universities there. She had nothing else to do, so she decided to smoke some weed, get high, and go on Tinder. I mean, like, what else do you do when you're bored? Swipe after swipe, she matched with this guy named Franz, who was a student at the university there. He wanted to meet up with her, but Uber was the only way to get there, and the Uber was connected to her dad's credit card, so he would know. Plus, she was in her PJs, so she's like comfy. But then he's like, "No, don't worry, I'll send a car for you." And so she gets in this random Uber that he sent for her, and that was her first mistake. So she arrives at his house and texts him that she's outside, and he says, "Okay, go up the stairs outside and ring the doorbell." When she rang the doorbell, the door automatically opened and she stepped inside. Once she was inside, she noticed the door started shutting and it didn't have a doorknob. It had this type of metal latch, so once it was shut, you couldn't get out from the inside. She stuck her hand in the door to stop it from locking her in, and then she said, "Hello?" Running out of time, part 2 coming right now. Part 2 of Elizabeth almost being taken by sex traffickers. So she's smart enough to stick her hand in the doorway to stop this door from locking her in because there's no doorknob. And so she goes, hello, and no answer, and then says hello again, and there's still no answer. But then she hears this woman's voice in distress just running towards the staircase. Fearful, she runs back outside and sees this man sitting on this bench, and she tries to talk to him, but he can only speak Spanish and Dutch. She doesn't know much, but she does say, una persona quiero robarme, which means that somebody's trying to steal me or somebody is trying to steal from me. But then she whips out Google Translate and asks him to walk with her home because she was very scared. She turns around and she sees this car following her, so she decides to cut through Vondel Park because no cars can go through there. They finally make it to her dad's apartment, and the guy tells her to call the police, and she said that she would once she gets inside. But once she gets inside, she looks out the window, and that car that was following her was sitting right outside of the apartment. She didn't want to wake her dad up and tell him everything because she was high and she left the house. She was more scared of getting in trouble than getting taken by sex traffickers. So running out of time, but part 3 is the final part, and it is coming right now. Part 3 of Elizabeth almost being taken by sex traffickers in Amsterdam. So Elizabeth didn't want to wake her dad up because she was more scared of getting in trouble than being taken by sex trafficker. Priorities out of order. So the mysterious car that was following her home was still outside of the apartment. She took a picture of the license plate just to be sure, but it had been an hour and it was still there. She kept looking out the window to see if it had left, but it hadn't, and then another 20 minutes passed and the guy gets out of the car and sprints to her front door. Her front door was kind of walled in like this, so you couldn't see what the person was doing from a window. She looks out the window again and she looks into the car and she sees like 2 or 3 women crouching down in the back seat. Every time one of them would move, the guy would turn around and flash the light into the car and they would stop moving. There are cameras at the front door, so she looks at them and she sees the guy trying to pick the lock to get into the house. She says over the intercom that she sees him and she called the cops, and then he gets up, runs to the car, and drives away. But then she starts seeing all these random people riding bikes back and forth in front of her house. They were all men, but each of them had a woman riding on the back of the bike. Last part 4 coming right now, sorry. Elizabeth almost being taken by sex traffickers, part 4, the last part. So there are all these men on bikes riding in front of her house back and forth with a woman accompanying them on the back of each bike. So she's really scared, I would be too, so she finally wakes her dad up and tells him everything that happened. And he scolds her for smoking weed, like, sorry honey that you are trying to be taken by sex traffickers, but like, I'm so disappointed in you for smoking weed. Then she goes home, and then about a week or 2 later, the police get the footage from the landlord of the guy trying to break into their house from the front door. They actually catch the guy, but they don't find any women, so that's kind of sad. And I guess they interrogate him, and he literally gives away all of his accomplices. I know it's crazy, but I'm actually not talking about 6ix9ine. It turns out that a lot of the guys that were riding bikes in front of the apartment were some of the accomplices. If Elizabeth did not lock the door behind her that night, she probably wouldn't be able to tell me this story. So moral of the story, don't give anybody your address, and please meet them in a public place, like go to Chuck E. Cheese. Also, that night she was so scared, she wrote down everything she remembered. These are her notes from that night. Anyways, that's it. Love you, be safe, stay away from sex traffickers, and always believe in yourself. This is why you should always trust your instincts. I got the story through my Instagram DMs from a girl who would like to stay anonymous, so we're gonna call her Abby. In 2016, Abby's grandmother was homeless, so sometimes she would go over to their old house and do her laundry and take a shower. Abby's grandmother also had some dogs. When Abby's mother was done doing her grandmother's laundry, she went outside to bring it to the van, and there was a man in the back of the van. And so she told Abby, I think your grandmother has a boyfriend. So Abby went inside and peeked around the house to try to see inside the van without having to open the door, because Abby's mom said that he was sleeping and she didn't want to wake him up. When Abby was walking up to the van, she got a very uneasy feeling and her eyes started watering, and she knew why. But when she walked past the van, he was not asleep anymore, and he sat up and he stared at her. The thing was, Abby was walking past the van, but she was walking in the wrong direction. But she could not bring herself to turn around and walk past the van again, and so the further she walked further from home. Couldn't fit it all into part 1, but part 2 is coming right now. You guys know I never make you wait. Part 2 of the really creepy guy in the van staring at Abby. So as Abby was walking further and further away from her house, she decided that she had to turn around, which means that she would have to walk past the van again. So when she eventually did, she kept her head down and she didn't look, but she could feel his eyes on her the entire time. And we all know what that feels like. I mean, you know when you know that someone's staring at you, like you can feel their eyes on you? Yeah. So Abby didn't tell anybody but the weird feeling that she got from the random guy in her grandmother's van. She just thought that she was being paranoid, so she goes to bed. And then around 1 a.m., she gets a call from her cousin, and her cousin says, the man in the van is looking for us. Well, apparently he was on some crazy drugs. He chased their grandmother around and told her that he was going to find Abby and her cousin and do whatever he wanted to them because now he knows where they live. Then Abby told her dad, and he got in the car and rode around the neighborhood with a shotgun. And it turns out that he was a registered sex offender. Moral of the story, don't let your grandmother do her laundry at your house.
Story time about how my best friend cheated on his girlfriend with me. Okay, so a little background information. We're gonna call him Gavin. So Gavin and I had been best friends since we were probably 4 years old. We went to preschool together, we lived in the same neighborhood. His grandparents were really good friends with my parents. And the reason why I say grandparents is because his parents had passed away from a car crash whenever he was 2. But that's besides the point. You guys get the gist. We were best friends for a very long time. And I always had a really, really, really big crush on him. And I would always try to like slyly mention it to him without just seeming like a whole weirdo. But I kind of got a hint that he didn't like me because every time that I would be like, oh yeah, like I really like you, or like, I don't know, I would just say something that made it obvious that I was trying to tell him that I liked him, and he would always laugh and be like, oh, like you're so funny, like don't joke with me like that. And I'm like, okay. It's like he played it off as he didn't want me to say that I liked him because he wasn't into me. So whenever we were in middle school, he would always like have these little girlfriends, and me on the other hand, I just like really was ugly.
Y'all wonder why I always do this, man. It's hard waking up every day and still being fucking ugly. That shit get old. Like, why my glow up keep passing me?
Yeah, no, I just wasn't the best looking in middle school. I did not have my glow up yet. So I was not having any little 2-day relationships or anything like that. Well, during our freshman year, he was actually getting into relationships with multiple girls, and I was supportive of everyone, you know, like I wasn't like that best friend who's like, I don't think she's good enough for you, you know, da-da-da-da-da. No, like I wasn't gonna be like that. And even though I was supportive of every relationship that he had, like I would not say one bad word about these girls, he would still block me on everything and pretend like we weren't friends since we were 4 years old. Okay, so fast forward to my sophomore year. Over the summer, your girl finally had a glow up, and boys were asking me on dates, you know, they were saying that they liked me, da-da-da-da-da, the whole 9 yards, sis. Now, clearly throughout this whole time, I still liked my best friend. But to be honest, I tried to suppress those feelings because I was done getting, what's the word, low-key rejected. Well, he had broken up with his girlfriend, he unblocked me on everything, we started hanging out again, and he was asking me about these dudes that were on my phone, and I was like, oh, like I'm talking to some of them. And he went through every single one and literally talked shit on all of them. He was like, ooh, don't date him, he smells weird. Ooh, don't date him, you can't date a dude that's shorter than you, blah, 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 blah. So I said, okay, well, who do you think I should get with? He was like, I don't know, none of these dudes are your type, though. And I'm kind of just sitting there thinking, like, why would he be acting like this if he didn't like me? Anyway, so I started talking to this dude named Trey, and him and I had been talking for, I want to say, like a month, and I guess Gavin found out from a few of his friends, and he texted me saying, ooh, you're gross, da-da-da-da-da, and then the next day he literally got into a relationship. But weirdly enough, this time he did not block me on any social media or anything like that. He actually started texting me more. He was like, oh yeah, me and my girl, we took these pictures today, like look at this. And you know, I would be supportive, like I said, like I would be like, oh, you guys are so cute, you know, da 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 da. Well, the one night, I want to say it maybe 2 a.m, he had texted me asking if I was awake, and I think this was on a weekend, I'm not sure though, but I said yeah. He was like, oh, like, can I come over? So he came over to my house, and he was like, I don't know what to do, like, I'm really stuck right now. And I was like, what's wrong? And he's like, I don't have feelings for her anymore, I never did have feelings for her. And this was maybe like a few weeks into their relationship. So I'm like, okay, then why did you start dating her? And he was like, oh, like, you're so stupid, like, I can't believe that you, like, don't realize that I freaking like you. And I'm like, says, I tried telling you for years that I was into you. So after that, I just told him to leave because I don't know where he thought it was okay to just come over now and tell me years later that he finally likes me whenever I've been trying to tell him for years. Like, sis, where is it okay to do that? Exactly. It's not okay to do that shit as soon as I get into a relationship too. So he ends up staying with this girl, and I want to say a month later, by the way, him and I did not talk at all. Like, we cut off all communication after that until the one day my family had a cookout at our house, and his grandparents were invited, and so was he. Well, he came over, and we didn't talk for literally like the first 2 hours, and then eventually he texted me and he said, do you want to talk? And at this point, I had more feelings for him because of the fact that he literally came over and told me that he liked me that night. So I was thinking about just risking it all, breaking it off with Trey, having him break it off with his girlfriend and everything. So I said, yeah. We went and we talked, and he was like, you should come over tonight. You know, my grandparents, they're gonna be visiting my aunt, so I have the house to myself tonight. So I go over there and we're hanging out, we're talking, and he said, you should break up with Trey. And I was like, okay, well, I think you should break up with her. So eventually one thing leads to another. We end up doing the nasty, and I go home like at 3 a.m. that night. I wake up and I am blocked on everything again. So I drag my ass out of bed, I get up, I walk to his house, and I go through the back door, because the back door, like, led to his bedroom, and I literally just start pounding on his door. And who opens it? His girlfriend. Mind you, it's like 9 a.m. Like, how are you gonna invite your girlfriend over after, like, us doing the nasty 6 hours ago? Make it make sense, sis. So she opens the door, and girl had an attitude as soon as she saw it was me. She was like, what do you want? And I was like, is Gavin here? And she was like, yeah, he's in the shower. Why? So me, trying not to punch this girl in the face, I'm being really nice. I'm like, oh, like, I just really need to talk to him. And eventually she's like, well, he doesn't want to talk to you, so I think you should just walk home. So then I decided to tell her what we did last night. And she's like, why do you think I would believe you? And I was like, okay, sis, go check right next to his nightstand. Because when I left last night, I did not have time to put on all my clothes, so I left my underwear by his nightstand. Sis goes over by his nightstand, and what does she see? My underwear. And she literally says, no, those are mine. Bruh. So at this point, I literally just leave, and I am thinking of what the hell I should do. Because 1, I cheated on Trey. 2, Gavin cheated on his girlfriend. That night, I go over to his house, and it was a school night, and his grandparents were really strict, so I knew that he wasn't going to be able to have his girlfriend over that night. I knocked on the back door, and I was like, hey, like, what the fuck? Why'd you block me on everything? And why is your girlfriend making up excuses for you cheating on her? And he was like, to be honest, you should just leave, or I'm going to tell Trey what we did. And after that, I left because I wasn't going to ruin the one good thing that I had. Well, my family had like a end of the summer cookout type of thing. And once again, his grandparents were invited. And him and I hadn't talked since school ended, which was like 3 months before this. And I had Trey at the cookout, and he had his girlfriend. Now, I still have feelings for him, but it was just so funny sitting there knowing that she knew that I screwed him, and he would be pissed off if she told my boyfriend. But after that day, he invited me over the one night, and he was like, listen, I just want this to be friends with benefits. So now we are currently doing the nasty and just not telling our partners about it, even though his girlfriend knows what we're doing. Like, she found text between me and him apparently, and then she hid his phone and put herself on FaceTime with him before she left the one night, so that way she could see if I came over. But yeah, she's just a whole weirdo. I'm just kidding. If my man was cheating on me and I couldn't say anything, then I'd probably be doing the same thing. Alright guys, so that is officially the end of this video. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and to see when I post my next video, make sure to click that.
Okay, so story time. By the way, follow @glambyhelen on Instagram and send me your stories. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. There was this girl, we'll call her Braylon, who had just moved in next to me. This girl was in the same school as I was and the same grade. Definitely didn't take her long to get popular though. I'm gonna be completely honest. I did not like this B word. I think you know what I'm saying. You know, I just had a feeling from like the moment I met her. There was this one time during class where she just walked up to me and called me a fat ass B word. Like, huh? What? It doesn't make sense. And here's where shit went downhill quick. So we live in a small town called Callahan, and right beside us there's another small town called Hillard. There's this doctor's office / clinic in Hillard that pretty much half of my school goes to. So this one particular time, I went with my friend to get her flu shot. Surprise, surprise, my neighbor was there. You will not believe what happened next. Life for part 2. Okay, so part 2. Okay, so there ended up being a little wait room that you could sit and wait until the nurses call you in. When they call you in, there's like this little hallway with a wait scan thing. The little B-word's mom was in tears because her daughter weighed 246 pounds. And me and my friend got in trouble because we started busting out laughing. Not at her, but her mom. And the second she called me a fat B-word, I screamed that out loud, and my friend yelled I'm the friend she went with. FYI, I weighed like 184 pounds at the time. And she never spoke to me literally ever again. So about 2 weeks after that little incident, it was summer break and it was Friday. So for me, that meant my boyfriend was allowed to come over. And before he came, I told him that I had a dentist appointment. Plus, my nana was sick and I didn't want her to be alone, so I wanted him to stay at my house anyways. Well, when I came back home from my dentist appointment, I went straight to my nana's room to check on her and she was asleep. Like for part 3. Okay, so part 3. So I went to check on my nana and she was asleep. Then I went to my room where I knew my boyfriend was in it. And before I opened the door, I heard moaning. I slung that door open, and I'm pretty sure you know what I saw. I grabbed that blonde-headed, big-nosed B-word by the hair and dragged her all the way to my back door, which was literally right beside my bedroom. After I did that, I told her if she didn't get the hell off my property, I was calling the cops. She ended up leaving, and all she had on was a bra and some shorts. Right after that, I went back to my bedroom and told my boyfriend to get out of my house. The next day, I went and told her mama what she did, and my boyfriend and my house in my bedroom on my bed. There is just no common sense. Her mom beat her ass, and I recorded it and kind of posted it on Instagram. By the way, half the school didn't like her anymore after I called her out. And then there was my boyfriend. Well, ex. Like for part 4. Okay, so part 4. I ended up inboxing the entire school and telling them what happened. And payback hit them hard. Now, I wouldn't say I'm popular, but everyone likes me and I have a new boyfriend. My ex got kicked off the football team because someone went running to the teachers and told them everything. But yeah, so don't do this to people and you won't get the karma coming back to bite you. Okay, so story time. By the way, follow @Glam by Helen and send me your stories. So my family and I, including my best friend, went on vacation to Orlando for 2 days. Let me tell you, this was a whole adventure. We were going to Disney, so we just ended up staying 2 nights. So we just spent the first night just at the hotel. The first night was really fun. We went to the pool. We hung out with some friends we made. We went to the gym, gotta work out. Might have met some stalker boys, but we won't talk about that. Anyway, here's where it gets juicy. When I tell you, I am so mad. So the next day, we ended up going to Disney. We woke up like extremely early, had breakfast, and then went on with our day. We went to Magic Kingdom. We went on all the rides, which was super fun. By the way, Space Mountain, definitely should hop on that because that is, so good. Anyways, we get back to the hotel. My friend and I are really thirsty because we walked so long. So downstairs there's a whole thing where you can buy some stuff. Like for part 2. Okay, so part 2. So we headed downstairs because we were really thirsty and there was this little shop. We headed to the shop, we got our waters, we paid for them, then we headed to our elevator. Let me tell you. So we go to our elevators, then comes in these 2 cute boys. Oh my gosh. So I'm just looking away, because it was glass, so I'm just looking outside, just minding my business. My friend was doing the same thing. So we got on their floor, and the elevator stops, and they're heading out. My friend then stops one of the boys and tells him that his hair was really cute, or that it looked good. Yeah, that was right. It looked good. He said thank you, started smiling, laughing with his friend. His friend was also cute and also my type, so I was just like, Anyway, so we go on throughout our day, just chilling because we literally walked for hours. So we head out and we go to buy some food. Took us a good, 2 hours to even find the place. Like for part 3. Okay, so part 3. So we ended up just going to Chick-fil-A, which I don't know why it took us 2 hours to even figure that out. But anyways, we get back to the hotel and then we're heading to the elevator. You know who's in the elevator? The cute 2 boys. But I was literally with my family, so I was we couldn't even talk to them. So we headed into the elevator, and during that ride, my friend ended up standing next to one of them. She heard them whispering, you ask her, arguing back and forth, trying to talk to her. They were trying to build up the courage to ask her a question. I was you should have just asked. Anyway, so we just went to the first floor because there's this balcony there that we wanted to eat there. It's not our floor, but it was cute, so we just sat there. Luckily for us, some of my family wanted something to drink, so I'm like, oh, I'll just go get something from downstairs. It was like the day before, me and my friend just were running around the hotel, you know, just looking at everything. Like for okay, so part 4. So my friend and I offered to go get the drinks because they were downstairs and we kind of wanted to see the cute boys. Anyways, we headed downstairs, and as we're going to like the little shop, we're in there choosing our drinks that we had to buy. All you could see was the boys coming towards us, then like stopping for a second. By the little shop there was a gym, and you could see their shadows in the gym just standing there. The one I liked was like creeping around the corner, and I think the other one was too. They were low-key waiting for us to just come out. You might say that they could have just been looking at other people, but mind you, it was just the cashier and us two in this shop specifically. We ended up seeing one of the people that we made like friends with the other night, and we started talking. Next thing you know, we paid for everything, we headed to the elevator, and they were gone. I'm just like, you could have just waited 2 seconds more. 2 seconds more. Could have been having a whole hotel romance. We go back up and finish eating. Then we head upstairs, and as we're doing that, like for part 5. Okay, so part 5 and final part. So as we're going upstairs, I'm looking out the glass window because I just normally do that for fun. I could see the 2 guys, and they literally saw us as well. When I tell you, they started sprinting. They wanted to see us again. I was so sad. I made up all the excuses to go back downstairs. But sadly, my parents didn't let me, and that was the last of what we saw. It was so sad. I'm just like, we could have just talked to them. Easily could have talked to them, and we would have... What do you guys think? Let me know. Also, TikTok, you should definitely put this on their For You page, not gonna lie. Okay, so story time. DM me your stories on Instagram at @glambyhelen, and you might just be featured. Okay, so this happened to me when I was 7 years old in my home country, Honduras. I was living with my aunt while my parents were in the United States. I was at this Christian school, and I was being bullied by all of my classmates. This time we went on a field trip to this beautiful place. It was so huge, green grass and trees, the sun was shining, everything was so pretty. Anyways, we went to go see some animals because that was the reason we went. As we were going, there was a pool, and we all had our bathing suits. A little backstory on swimming. We took swimming classes, it was forced. However, I did not learn how to swim while the other kids could. A little bit sad, but it's okay. So everybody knew I could not swim. Great. Another thing to be bullied for. So fun. Anyways, let me describe the pool. It was small and it was very deep. When I say deep, like you could not see the end of the pool. Like for part 2. Okay, so part 2. Anyways, so yeah, you could not see the end of the pool. There was another side and kids were safe there. The other kids swam across the pool, but I could not swim, so I just stayed in the edge. So, this boy came up to me and we started playing tag around the edges of the pool. Acting like a friend when he ignored me. I was innocent. Anyways, I was having so much fun that he pushed me into the deep water. I was drowning and I saw the bottom of the pool, but it was just black. There was no end. I was not about to die. I had a family to live for. Excuse me. I have no clue how. I worked up the courage and decided to swim up. I don't know how I swam up, but I got out of the water. Let me just say that the teachers did not jump to save me. No one did. When I came out, they were outside the border just waiting for me. I cried after this experience and I'm traumatized. To this day, I'm not able to swim. That was so scary.